Hey Internet, we are talking about West Coast today and we're going to go over those West Coast building blocks. So, some of you already know this, but West Coast for me was one of the hardest and most frustrating dances at the very beginning. It took me about 6 months to be comfortable doing the basic. So, it is harder. In my case, I learned Lindy first. It is harder if you've done Lindy because the building blocks, the way you use the dance, things that make the dance true are a little different between those, even though the footwork patterns on the floor and the rhythms are almost identical. So we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to start right into the big one, which is froid. And so froid is the counterbalancing pressure that you're both either sitting away from each other or you're both pressing forward into each other. Lindy uses back froid almost exclusively, where you're sitting back away from each other. Balboa uses forward press or forward froid almost exclusively. West Coast, you are ping-ponging back and forth using both equally, and your difficulty, or this part that makes West Coast strange, is that you're needing to evenly go from one to the other when those are opposite ideas and directions. But that's what the using your froid there in West Coast will help you create those shapes and those ideas. So our second building block is going to be the second and third building blocks will be in common with East Coast swing, which is that if we have tension, there's going to be a pair of walks. So 2 beats, 2 weight changes. Walk, walk, or rock, step. Those are going to be caused by tension. That you're going to have those rhythms. Usually in West Coast, it'll usually be a walk, walk. And then if you're at rest, if there's not tension, if your froid is neutral in this case in West Coast, it will mean that you're going to do a triple. And that means since you can leave the froid slacked, or you can play with that triple will become more important in the end of the building blocks here. So far we have got our froid, which is forward or backwards tension that is opposing with your partner. And then second up, we've got our tension creates a pair of walks. And our third is that our frame with no tension, or our relaxed frame, will cause a triple. Or any rhythm that has an odd number of weight changes for an even number of beats. But the overwhelming used rhythm there is the triple in West Coast. So then we have our on the line. So this is a slot dance, which essentially this is mostly going to impact the followers here in that most every other dance across all the dance families, the follower is asked to sort of chase the facing of where the leader is in space. I know that's a lot of Dr. Seuss words there of rhyming, but essentially you're trying to aim your motions to stay facing your partner. In West Coast, you don't really care very much about where the partner is in space. You're going to be sort of locked into that 180-degree choice of am I going forward or facing 180 from that to go forward in the opposite direction on that track. So that on the line, that slot dance, West Coast is more strictly adhered to that than almost any other dance, including some of our Latin dances there. So you've got on the line, and then you've got the froid, then the 2 rhythm ones, and our last building block in West Coast is the play triple. And essentially what this means is the last triple on any pattern, if you want to call them patterns, at the end of shapes when we slack out that frame and we get that triple because there's no tension, that triple can be anything. It can be at rest, it can be an anchor triple, it can be a stylistic element. This play triple is built in to the end of most every shape so that you have beginners, just starters, people that are learning West Coast can use that last triple to get back to the line if they're trying to finish a turn or anything like that. and the more advanced dancers can sort of make it their own style during that time. So if you're watching people that have been doing West Coast for a while, they may not always match, but somehow still are able to dance with each other. That's usually what's going on, is both of them are individually filling that last play triple, and not needing to do that identical to each other because there's no tension. It's a slacked out triple we talked about earlier, and you're meant to be able to use it if the last shape isn't finished, or create something of your own. So that's been our building blocks for West Coast. Thank you so much for joining. If you are able to help us out on the Patreon, we appreciate it. We can't do it without you guys. And we'll keep up this series with building blocks until we've got all the dances done when we have classes for them. We appreciate you just tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, Internet.